Ooda lolly and welcome. My name is DJ, aka Ferda Fangorn, and I am back today to talk about the Sapphire ink in the game Disney Lorcana and the budget singles that you should target for that ink. Again, for this video, like every other one in this series, we will be featuring rare, super rare, and legendary cards only, as commons and uncommons fall underneath my budget guidelines of being $5 at most per individual copy. So everything in this video is $5 or less per one copy, meaning that a playset of four for your deck will cost at most $20 to obtain at market price at the time of recording this video. I am excited to talk about this ink and can't wait to get started. So let's jump right in. Okay, to begin this budget staples section of this video, I'm going to start with a character card that I'm surprised is still in this budget range. It is Tamatoa So Shiny, a super rare character from the first chapter. 8 cost inkable, 5 strength, 8 willpower, quest for 1. He has the What Have We Here ability that states that when you play him and whenever he quests, you may return an item card from your discard to your hand. He also has Glam, that he gets +1 lore pip on him for each item you have him play. Sapphire is very, very item heavy in general. It likes to play with a lot of items. There's a card we're going to talk about in a minute here that fits a lot of items into your discard, making this card essential for pulling them back and getting them on the board to trigger that second ability of his. He is a staple Sapphire card. Most of the time, I don't think you run more than 3 in a deck. A lot of Sapphire decks will feature 2 of him. But right now, he's still under $5 a copy. And if Sapphire is an ink that has your attention and one you really want to play, I highly recommend making sure you grab some of him now while you can. As we move further away from the first chapter, I just don't see him coming down in price and only going up unless something new comes out that just replaces him. But I find that very unlikely. He is just a very strong card, and he can win games for you very quickly at the end of a game. Moving on, talking about an action song card from the first chapter, Let It Go. It is a rare action song, 5 cost inkable. And what it does is it lets you put a chosen character into that player's inkwell exerted. Sapphire, similar to Amber, is very, very weak on removal in general. It's not the best at challenging. So anything that you can get your hands on that does any form of removal is definitely something you want to look at. This is definitely one of the best options in this ink. It's a staple in this ink. It's very good. Yes, you ramp your opponent a little bit. By that I mean you're putting extra cards into their inkwell quicker, and that hurts a little bit, but you don't really care because typically you're targeting something that you really just want gone with this card. It's nice that it's also inkable so that you can get rid of it if you don't need it at the moment. It's a very good card, a very strong song card, and you definitely need this one in your Sapphire collection. Up next is an item that has kind of come in and out of the top tier decks, but I still think it's a very staple core piece to Sapphire, and that is Fishbone Quill, a rare item again from the first chapter with 3 costs inkable. What this card lets you do is activate its go ahead and sign ability where you can exert it, and then you can put any card from your hand into your inkwell. And this is neat because if you have a lot of unequals early, so you altered your hand and really whiffed, and you got a bunch of cards and you're kind of stuck, you can actually put unequal cards into your inkwell. You also don't have to show your opponent what you're inking, so you can kind of hide a little bit of your strategy, not let them know what you put in there, kind of get a little cheeky with that. This card also allows you to continually put extra cards into your inkwell, you inking up to twice a turn if you have one of these out, letting you get to your big cards really fast and it turns earlier than you should be able to. It's just a really nice item piece. It's a lot of fun in this build. You do need to pair it with some strong card draw, otherwise you'll find yourself with a ton of ink and no cards in hand. But it's a really good item card, and you definitely need this one. Up next is one of my personal favorites in the ink. It is Cogsworth Grandfather Clock. He's a super rare character from the Floodborn set. 5 cost inkable, 2 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2. He does shift for 3, but he doesn't really have a great shift target. We don't really care about that with him because and he also has ward, keeping him safe from being chosen by your opponent for any effects, abilities, actions, anything like that. But what really makes him super strong is that unwind ability that lets your other characters gain resist +1, meaning every character on your board, when they take damage, is going to take 1 less damage each time. He is a real headache for your opponent. He makes all your characters harder to get rid of. He himself has ward, so he's hard to get rid of. he just makes for a really obnoxious board state. He's a very good card. He's another one kind of like Fishbone you don't see as often anymore, depending on the build. In Ruby, in a not Ruby, sorry, in a Steel Sapphire build, he is excellent. He's excellent in general, in my opinion. I love him a lot. Anytime you can cause your opponent a headache just by his putting a card on the board in its presence alone is a good card. Up next is arguably one of the strongest cards in the entire game, right up there with that Madam M Fox we talked about in Amethyst. Hiram Flaversham Toymaker. Rare character from the Floodborn set. He is a 4-cost inkable, 1 strength, 6 willpower, quest for 1. What makes this card so good is he is one of the best draw engines in the game with that Artificer ability that when you play him and whenever he quests, you may banish an item and draw 2 cards. Now you might be thinking, why would I want to banish my items? But you can load a deck up with things like a Popsicle that already lets you draw a card. It's a cheap 1-cost item. Then it kind of just sits there for the most part. Sometimes you use it to heal, but there's plenty of items to go around. And sacrificing something like that to draw 2 cards, especially around turn 4, turn 5, feels really good. It's worth the trade every time. And in the deck with him, you're typically using a Tamatoa. You can pull those items back, play him again, draw additional cards. It's just a really annoying piece. That 6 willpower is significantly high. It's very annoying to get rid of. Some of that targeted removal we saw in Ruby, like Medusa, can get rid of him pretty straightforward. But by that time you get to turn 6, he's already probably drawn 4 cards for your opponent. He's just a really strong card. Um, like I said, he's definitely in the conversation for the strongest card in the game. He is arguably the best card in Sapphire, and what really makes Sapphire go. Up next is a super rare character from Ursula's Return. Is Ariel Treasure Collector. She is a super rare, 6-cost uninkable, 3 strength, 4 willpower, quest for 3, has ward. That alone already is really good. Like I said, I love anything that quests for 3, especially if it has ward, because there's a really good chance you're getting 3 at minimum with this card. But what really makes her great, especially in Sapphire, is the girl who has everything ability. That when you have more items in play than your opponent, she gets +2 lore pips on her, meaning she can quest for 5. So there is a good chance that you're going to have more items than your opponent if you're playing Sapphire, unless you're playing someone else who happens to be running Sapphire. You're going to have lots of items. She could easily become a 5-quester with ward, seal games for you at that point because there's a good chance you might be within 20 by the time you get her out and ready to quest on turn 7 anyway. She's just a really good card. I do believe she belongs here in the staple section because she is just so strong, so good, and especially in a budget friendly build, you're going to want her for your deck at least as a 2 of. And now we'll be talking about the final card in this section of the video. It is a super rare character from Azurite Sea, Alice Savvy Sailor. She is a 3-cost uninkable character, 1 strength, 4 willpower, quest for 2, and she also has ward. I really like ward. It's a strong ability, and what makes her especially strong is the Ahoy ability she comes with that states whenever this character quests, another chosen character of yours gets +1 lore pip and gains ward until the start of your next turn. She not only allows you to get extra lore that turn that you use her on a character, she also allows you to provide protection to a character, forcing your opponent to most likely have to challenge that character to get rid of that character. She is great at protecting things you want to keep protected. She is good at providing a little extra aggro, a little extra oomph to the questing at the end of the game if you need it. One of the better plays I like with her too is that here, and we talked about, comes down the turn after her, and the new quest with her give him ward. It grants him protection for a turn, kind of guaranteeing he should be able to stay there and generate extra card draw. He doesn't benefit from the extra lore pip that he gets, but if this Alice is able to somehow stick around for a couple turns, that hero can become a real problem, questing for 2 and letting you draw 2. She is just a really cool card, a lot of fun to play with, a really fun tech card, and it's definitely one of my favorite artworks as well in the game. But I do think she is a essential piece to Sapphire. She does everything you want from Sapphire. She can go fast. She has the ward. So I like it a lot. It's a fun card. And that's going to do it for the budget staples. And we move on to our budget potentials. Okay, we are now moving into our budget potential section of this video. We're going to start off with a super rare from the first chapter, Aurora Dreaming Guardian. She is a 5-cost inkable character, 3 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2. She does shift on 3. She has a couple decent shift targets as well, so there is a good chance you do get to take advantage of that. and she has Protective Embrace, which gives all of your other characters ward. So she protects your entire board from being chosen from things as long as she is still on the board. They get that protection. She is very, very nifty in princess builds, offering extra protection to your more fragile, less challenge happy princesses. Uh, it's just really nice to be able to give blanket ward to everything else. If you get a pair of these out, now your entire board has ward, and that's just a good time. It does have a little bit of potential. I do think there is a time that this could maybe sneak into the other tier, but as for now, this is where she belongs. Moving along, we're going to talk about my favorite princess again. It is Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah. She is a rare character from the first chapter. She is also a 5-cost inkable, 2 strength, willpower of 5, quest for 2. She does have shift 3. Her shift targets aren't as great as Aurora, but you play the 1-cost Jasmine a lot in budget princessy builds, so she does get a chance to come out on shift. She also has Caretaker, which is that when you play her and when she quests, you may remove up to 2 damage from each of your characters. She is giving blanket damage removal, healing to all of your characters, which is really, really nice. It's a repeated effect if she stays on the board. She quests for 2. I just really like this card. It's a really fun card. It's one that I think deserves maybe a little bit more play. I think people don't really appreciate the healing side of the game at the moment, as a lot of the times people just want to outright get rid of the character, so there's usually not too much damage left over. But I do think she has a lot of potential. Moving on is one of my all-time super favorite cards in this game, and one I am determined to figure out how to make work. It is Alice Growing Girl. She screams potential. There is going to be a day where she's going to be really good. We're just missing that 1 or 2 pieces that she requires to really do what she does best at her fullest strength. She is a legendary character from Floodborn. She is a 3-cost inkable, 1 strength, 4 willpower quests for 1. She also has good advice, which means your other characters gain support. So she makes all of your other characters have the ability to use the support keyword, meaning they can beef each other up as it goes down the line. So you have a couple characters out. The first one quests, you could pass that strength over. That character can then quest, and they pass that added new strength over. And it goes so on and so on. It adds up. Hope and your end goal is to hopefully get it to at least 9 total, and then pass it back to Alice, where she can take advantage of her "What did I do" ability that states that when she has 10 strength or more, she gets plus 4 pips, meaning she can quest for 5. It is a lot of setup. It's a reason that this card hasn't quite worked yet. It does take a lot of things to go right to really get her to do what she wants. I have tried to build decks around her every set. Anytime we get anything new, I do like to experiment and see if there is a way to crack it. I think it's close, and I do think it's a really fun build in a casual setting. I think she could be a really, really fun card to play with at the kitchen table. I love her a lot. Moving along, we have yet another Floodborn character, this time from the Floodborn set as well. It is a rare Gaston, intellectual powerhouse. He is a 6-cost uninkable, 4 strength, 4 willpower, quest for 3. He shifts on 4. Don't really have too many super playable Gastons. There is one that sees a lot of play, so this one could shift onto that one in a very specific build. At one point, this card was an absolute staple for Sapphire, but he has since fallen out of favor as more and more cards have come out. He has developed Brain ability, which states that when you play him, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you put 1 in your hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So you can kind of dig for something you might really need in the moment, or something you might need in a turn or two, pick a card, or even just send things away that you didn't want to see at that point in the game. That's always nice to have, and questing for 3 is always phenomenal. Up next, it's another combo heavy piece in Grand Pabby, Oldest and Wisest. Super rare character from the Floodborn set. He is a 7-cost uninkable, 3 strength, 6 willpower, quest for 3. You know how I feel about 3-questers. I love them. They're always worth looking at. And he has Ancient Insight, which is whenever you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, you gain 2 lore. So you play that Jasmine, you can heal your entire board 2 by 2 damage, and gain 2 lore. Then every time she quests, you're getting another 2 lore. Sapphire has a decent amount of healing. Pair this with Amber, which has a lot of healing as well, and you could really have a really fun win con. He does come out pretty late. He is pretty expensive, and he is a little bit fragile with that 3 strength. But he is a fun card. I do think there's potential there somewhere. It's a fun build. In Budget World, we'll definitely be building a few decks that center him or at least have him in it. Up next is a card I'm really throwing in here as a nod to one of my league mates. They swear this card is going to have its day, and I do see the potential in it, and so I do think it's worth talking about for a moment. It is a rare action from Floodborn set. It's a 4 cost uninkable, falling down the rabbit hole. Each player chooses one of their characters, puts them into their inkwell face down, and exerted. This gets around ward like those Lady Tremaine we talked about in the previous video, or the Be King Undisputed. So your opponent is picking the character. So if you have a way to kind of keep their board low and you play this card, you can make them pick that character and get rid of it. You can play this and choose a character you don't necessarily care so much about. Maybe you played a 1 or 2 class character that has lost its oomph. And so now it can go into your inkwell and kind of help you ramp for the next turn. I could definitely see the potential here. If it was inkable, this card would definitely be somewhat playable. The uninkable holds it back a little bit, but again, in Sapphire, just like Ruby, we don't have a ton of removal, so it's nice to have removal in any form. And moving on is a really good item, a really good draw engine for Sapphire, especially in a budget build. It is Maurice's Workshop. It is a 3 cost uninkable item from the Floodborn set. It is rare, and it has the looking for this ability. Now, whenever you play another item, you may pay 1 to draw a card. In Sapphire, you're going to be playing a ton of items most likely. Having paying 1 ink to draw a card is always nice to have. Sometimes you might not have something to play on curve or using all your ink, or it's late in the game and it's dragged on, and all of a sudden you're not really using all your ink. This is a great way to keep putting cards in your hand at the same time. It's a cool card. It's a fun draw engine to use, and we like to draw cards. In Budget World, we try to do that wherever we can. Up next is our first card we're going to talk about from the Inkland set, the legendary character Grandma Tala, Spirit of the Ocean. She is a 7 cost inkable character, 4 strength, 8 willpower, and she also quests for 2. She shifts on 5. There's a couple of Grandma Talas worth playing, so there's a good chance you can shift her. What makes her extremely strong, though, is she is another one of those who has a really good win condition for her ink, and she fits the theme of this ink. And do you know who you are? Anytime you put a card into the inkwell, you gain a lore. So you ink every single turn you're on here, you're probably inking each turn. That's going to be a lore. You use any kind of the ramp that's very prevalent in Sapphire, maybe that fishbone quill, that's another lore. Falling down the rabbit hole, that would get you another lore. Anytime a card goes into your inkwell, you're gaining lore while she's on the board, and that could add up really, really fast in this ink. Uh, she doesn't see a whole lot of play in super competitive, but we will definitely have some really cool builds with her. Um, we like to ramp in blue. We're going to be inking a lot anyway, and to be able to get lore while doing that is just really a nice option to have. Up next, we have a super rare character from Ursula's Return. It is Anna True Hearted. She is a super rare 4 cost inkable character with 2 strength, 4 willpower, and quests for 2. She has the Let Me Help You ability that states that whenever she quests, your other hero characters get +1 lore this turn. She is phenomenal in a hero's build. She can really help you rack up lore in a really fast way. She is something your opponents are going to want to take out pretty quickly. Hero is also a very common archetype. It's pretty easy to build a deck around heroes. There are some already out there that are borderline top tier. So this card definitely has a bunch of potential. It could be a lot of fun in budget world. It's close to being in the competitive world. I really like her a lot, and she's very cheap as she comes from a starter deck, and so it's not too hard to get copies of her. Um, I like it a lot. I think the first video we're going to do when I start showcasing some budget decks does feature this card, so I look forward to that. Up next is another favorite thing of mine that's overstated uninkables, and that's a 4 cost Scrooge McDuck rare from Shimmering Skies. He has 5 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2 at the cost of 4. Phenomenal body, quest for 2, really strong presence on 4. Love him a lot. I definitely think he's worth throwing in a copy or two of into Sapphire decks if you are looking for something with a little more punch. And, I mean, it's a vanilla card. It's pretty straightforward. It's good. Use it, get it while you can. Up next is another card I think is a little underutilized. The Sapphire has so many good pieces, honestly, that I can see why. It's another one of those rare 9 uninkables from Shimmering Skies. This time it's Sheriff of Nottingham, Bushel Bridges. He's got 5 strength, 9 willpower, quest for 4. Massive body, massive stats. Love it a whole lot. On top of that, he also has every little bit helps that for each item you have in play, you pay one less to play him. Not very hard to rack up a few items and get him down for 5, 6 ink. And then he also has support. So when you play him, if he lives and it's your next turn, you can quest for 4, and then you're passing that 5 strength to another one of your characters, probably one of your weaker characters, possibly, maybe to a Hiram if you have that on board. He's only got the 1 strength. Now all of a sudden he's got a 6 strength. He's just a really, really fun card, a really cool card. I am surprised I don't see him more often, but we will definitely be showcasing him on this channel. Up next, we have a card that goes in and out up top to your decks, but has recently fallen out a little bit, and that is Chicha. Dedicated Mother. She is a rare character from Shimmering Skies. She is a 2-cost uninkable, 2 strength, 1 willpower, quest for 1. So she is a little bit fragile. She does have support, so if she does stick around a quest, you can beef up something else on your board with that 2 strength and hopefully have them swing into something that might be willing to take her out. She also has one on the way ability that states that during your turn, when you put a card into your inkwell, if it's the second time you've put a card into your inkwell, you may draw a card. As I've said, Sapphire likes to ramp. There's a good chance you're putting in more than one card into your inkwell at a time in a turn. So this could be a decent little draw engine. She's a little fragile and easy to get rid of, so I don't know how many cards you'd really see from her, but if you can see a couple from her, that feels really good. Up next, from the same franchise, we have Cusco, Selfish Emperor. He is a super rare character from Shimmering Skies. He is 6 cost and inkable, 3 strength, 5 willpower, quest for 2. So a decent stat line. Questing for 2 is always nice. He also has the outplacement ability that states that when you play him, you may put a chosen item or location into its player's inkwell face down and exerted. Say your opponent has a really annoying location or item on board, you can play him and send that item location right back into their inkwell where it can never be seen again. Really nice, really strong. You can even use it on something of yours if you want to add extra ink to your own ink for the next turn. He also has by invite only. You can pay 4 ink and your other characters gain resist +1 until the start of your next turn. It's a little expensive, but it is stackable. So if you're running Sapphire, there's a good chance you could have 8 ink, 12 ink. You could activate it 3 times if you really wanted to and give your entire board resist +3 besides Cusco until your next turn, meaning they are probably free to take any damage that is coming their way, challenge anything that you want to challenge, and is going to survive. He's just a fun utility piece, and we always love a good, useful Cusco around here. Up next is one of my personal favorites, and I think one of the prettier cards in this ink. It is Belle of the Ball. She is a rare character from Shimmering Skies, 4 costs, uninkable. She has 2 strength, 3 willpower, quest for 2. Once again, we have another card I'm talking about with Ward. Just a great ability. Love it when I can use it. And then on top of that, she is ushered into the party. That states that when she is played, your other characters gain a ward until the start of your next turn. Just play her. You can give something protection. Maybe you give something ward that you want your opponent to challenge. Whatever it is, it's always nice to be giving ward to others while you already have ward. We like ward. It protects you from a lot of threatening things. And finally, we are going to talk about Zipper, Astute Decoy from the Azurite Sea set. He is a rare character card, 3 costs, inkable, 2 strength, 2 willpower, and quest for 2. And you guessed it, he's got ward. And quest for 2, those are 2 things we always like. And on top of that, he has the run interference ability that states that during your turn, whenever you put a card into your inkwell, another chosen character gains resist +1 until the start of your next turn. We just talked about how good resist is and what it can do for you with that Cusco. This one might be a little easier to trigger as you don't have to pay for ink and it already plays off of what you're doing in Sapphire, and that's inking a lot anyway. So you can kind of leave him on board and just continue to provide protection and more protection and more protection for your characters turn after turn until your opponent finds a way to get rid of him. It's a really cool card, really fun card to build around. I do actually have a deck in mind that I do want to build with him. I haven't actually used him yet, but I have seen people use him, and he's definitely got a ton of potential. He's just pesky. He can really make things annoying for your opponent, and he's got potential, and that's what this whole second part of this video is here for. And so, yeah, I think that will cover it for now. And that's going to do it for today's video going over the budget singles you should be targeting for the Sapphire ink. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you have any interest in following along in this journey I'm going on, going through all the budget singles to target, venturing into budget deck building, deck building tips, and things like that in the future, give me a subscribe. I can't wait to go into more depth about how to approach this game from a budget standpoint. Our next video will be the last one of this initial series as we talk about Steel. And as always, if you have any comments or anything about this video, any cards that you were excited to see me talk about, cards you were surprised to see me talk about, or cards you think I got wrong, I would love to hear any and all feedback. You can also find me over on X under the same name, Ferda Fangorn. I'm very active over there, so I look forward to interacting with you on either site. And with that, be love, be you, and God bless.